Well, good morning. I'm Mark Wagner. I'm this year's president of the Stillwater Pioneer Athlete Memorial Foundation Board, and this will be the 19th annual induction ceremony. I'd like to welcome you to the ceremony, and we sometimes call it SPAM. It's just a nice short abbreviation. Just giving the introduction to get it started off. This program did start in about 1995 under Coach Harris, and it wasn't until 2000 that we were able to get enough donations to begin the scholarship. And so since 2000, the year 2000, at which time it was $2,000 for 4 years. And I'm happy to say through everyone's generous donations that this scholarship has increased fourfold. It's $8,000 now for 4 years, and I really want to congratulate everyone that has donated. It's now one of the largest private scholarships that's awarded to Stillwater High School graduating seniors. We're honoring 5 individuals today for induction into the Stillwater Pioneer Athlete Memorial. They'll be joining 104 of inductees and distinguished service awardees, such as I believe we have attending today, Coach C.D. Mahura. Can you raise your hand, Coach? He is one of our distinguished service awardees, and that's the first time I've ever had to look for C.D. because he usually looked for me when I was playing, and it wasn't a happy sight. We hope to honor our time contract to move this ceremony through. We do have the OSU football game at 11 o'clock, so we'll be moving as quickly as possible. And in that, I would like to now pass the podium to John Pryor, who's in the class of 1966, for our invocation. John?
When I was in high school here, Coach Harris called me a long-haired golfer. I'm not much of a golfer anymore, and you can figure out the rest. Sports and spirituality have a lot in common. I would remind you that one of the primary rules of golf and prayer is that when you engage in these activities, you concentrate and keep your head down. So let's bow and ask God to bless this morning. Our Heavenly Father, we're grateful for those who inspire us and for those who's with courage enough to work hard and set examples for us, and for those with wisdom enough to challenge us. We cherish the memories of the past with fondness and gratitude as we recall friends and associates with which you have blessed us. We thank you for those who through hard work and courage and determination have left their sterling examples for others to follow. At a time when many sports figures have tarnished the image of sports with behavior unacceptable to all of us who enjoy sports, we celebrate the lives of these inductees whose lives have reinforced their sports images in a wholesome, inspirational manner. It makes it all the more special for us here today that these inductees are our people who've shared their lives here with us in our town and in our school. As we recognize these inductees today, grant that our fellowship will draw us closer to you, which in turn draws us closer to each other, to the end that we will be better people for you and accomplish the tasks that you have set before us individually with the overall purpose of glorifying you. And we pray all this in your Son's name. Amen.
Thank you, John. In the back of your program that I hope you all got is a list of our past inductees who are also, we urge you to go around and look at all of them if you haven't before you leave today. They are done by year. At this time, I would like to honor all these inductees with a moment of silence. I'd like to make a few introductions. I don't know, first off and foremost is Larry Francis, who is in the back. He always hides, but Larry is the one that puts all of this together for us every year. He works for the high school here. He's incredible. Principal Gordon is also here, the principal of the high school. Do we have any coaches at all? Oh, Chick Davis, the basketball coach, he normally honors us. And who? And Coach Goebel. Thank you all for being here. Also like to thank Cassie Kendrick's TV 31 team. They are videoing this, and they make a CD for us, or DVD, I guess is what it is, showing my age. That we send to the family so that they can have a record of this whole ceremony. I won't read the names of all the SPAM members. They are also in the back, but I would like at this time for all the Stillwater Pioneer Athlete Memorial members to stand up. Well, we can do better than that, come on. All right. Thank you. Is Harry Hicks here? I'd like to thank Harry Hicks he's going to take the photographs today. He volunteered. I don't know how hard he volunteered, but he volunteered. As we do the induction, one member from the family will come up. We'll present the plaque. Harry will get a picture of that. Then after we're done, we would like the family to stay, the whole families of each inductee to stay, and we will get a family picture with everybody. So please stay around. It get a little chaotic right at the last, but please, all the family members, please stay around, because you'll want, we'll send you that photograph, and you all, I think, will really want that at some point. My papers got out of order. Hold on. For those of you that don't know, this was started back in the late mid-90s when Stillwater High alumnus Nick Dreesen died. Several donations were made to Nick's father, Ralph. And Ralph wanted to do something with the money, special, other than he didn't know what. So he went to Coach Harris, Jim Harris, who a lot of us remember. Some of you maybe even be a little too old for that, but I'm not. And Jim came up, Coach Harris came up with this idea. I think actually worked with Tom Derringer and some others to come up with the idea of doing these inductions. And then we eventually, I think it's 2000, I forget the exact year. If I had my notes that I've lost, I could do it better. We started giving scholarships to what, we studied on was where the athletes, pioneer athletes, to go on to college at some Oklahoma college. We're picky about that. And that has been very successful. And at this point, we have two of our inductees here, Aaron Hessler and Emma Doss. I would like for both of those to come up. and say something. You want to go before the girls or after?
It doesn't matter.
Go ahead.
Am I just introducing myself?
Tell what the scholarship meant to you or how you're doing.
My name is Aaron Hessler. I graduated from Stillwater High School in 2011. I am currently at Southwestern Oklahoma State. I'm in my second year of pharmacy school. This scholarship has meant a lot to my parents and I. My dad teaches here. He's the head of the math department. And my mom works at OSU, and we don't have a huge amount of money, but this scholarship has helped our family to not have to take out a bunch of loans for my tuition. And it means a lot every year that I'm able to continue my education at a cheaper cost because of this. I just want to thank all of you guys for all of your donations and just for the support through school, through your financial support through my schooling. So thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Emma Dawes. I graduated last year, class of 2014. In high school, I played soccer and I was part of the Palm Squad. And currently, I'm a freshman at OSU. I'm enrolled in 12 credit hours and my chosen major is chemistry. I hope to go on to a pharmacy program as that's what I want to do in life. Whoops. I'm also a part of Kappa Delta, and I actually just got initiated last night.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so exciting, but I wanted to thank each and every one of you for supporting my educational goals. This scholarship has meant so much to me and so much to my family, and I'm really, truly so honored. So thank you all so much.
Hi, I'm Jenny Scarborough. I graduated class of 2013. I'm currently a sophomore at OSU, double majoring in accounting and finance, so I hope to be an accountant someday. And I'm also a member of Alpha Omicron Pi at OSU, as well as I work part-time at the vet school with my mom in the admissions office. And the scholarship has really meant a lot to us. It's helped me not take out as many loans, and I hope to be able to go through OSU without having any debt or having to pay as many loans. So the scholarship has meant a lot. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. I think you can see the quality of kid that we were able to pick. Now to get to the program. Our first inductee is Charles O'Donnell, the class of 1954, and the preventer for Charles is Tad O'Donnell.
I would like to start off by saying I am very happy to be here at this presentation today. It means a lot to the O'Donnell family, the immediate family of Nancy, his wife, and daughter and grandson, as well as Tim and I, my brother, it's here. I'd like to start off by kind of giving you an idea of how the O'Donnells grew up and how Charles grew up from becoming a very professional, well-liked school teacher, coach, and administrator. Charles was born May in 1936 near Venco, Oklahoma, on the riverbanks of the Cimarron River. Our mom and dad were farmers, and Charles began his first year of school at Venco, an old school up on top of the hill west of Venco. Through his life, coming from Venco, he came into Stillwater and went to school at Lincoln School. I think we all know where Lincoln School was. Probably a third of us right here that are in this crowd went to school at Lincoln. And Charles was a guy who was proud to be a pioneer, I think, just like all of us. There were 5 of us boys, and it meant a lot to us to be pioneers. And Charles was a pretty talented athlete growing up. He could beat you in baseball. He'd try to beat you in football. We're talking about opponents, not guys he tried to beat on, before they played a game. He was a very talented young man back then. I can't really remember seeing it, but I got to hear about it from my mother when they come back, because there was 5 boys in our family, and it's kind of hard to fit 4 people in the front end of a 49 Chevrolet pickup. But I always got to hear, or if we listened to KSPI, we got to hear the game. And in particular, I think one of the greatest moments of my brother Charles was he broke his collarbone, and they were playing in Bartlesville one night. And of course, you know how mothers are. They don't want their son to get hurt. Well, he was already hurt, and Dad had convinced her he was healed. But I remember that night that he ran as a tailback in that game between Bartlesville and ran for almost 100 yards. And I thought, how cool, this is my brother doing this, And it just made me very proud. Charles, he played baseball, played football, wrestled. He was pretty good about doing it all. But he had a lot of friends, and he was always very proud of his family. And I think our mother and our father made him who he grew up to be and prosper by getting to do the things that he did. He started off with scholarship offers from Tulsa University and Florida State the spring he graduated. He chose Tulsa University over Florida State because Dad didn't believe there was a country in Florida, And Charles went to TU that year, and in the spring of '54, he broke his ankle, and at the end of that semester, he transferred to Northeastern A&M at Miami, where he was an outstanding athlete, as well as a boxer. He was a Golden Glove champ, He went on to be a school teacher and a coach, and began that profession in Gabbs, Nevada. Anybody ever heard of Gabbs, Nevada? I hadn't either until Mom and Dad told me. I thought, my God, what kind of place is Gabbs, Nevada? But Nancy, his new wife, took off to Gabbs, Nevada. And while they were there, in 2 years, first year I think he had kind of a bummer year, maybe only 1-2 ball games. The next year, he got after it, and they won a state championship. The only first and last state championship that he won. After that, he coached it. He left there, coached at Guyman, went to Perry, coached at Hollis, Oklahoma, was very successful at Hollis, and then taught at Maysville. It's a happy moment for me, as well as my brother Tim, who is here, my grandson, my nephews. It's a great honor for you all to recognize my brother on this presentation. I you know, I'm one of those pioneers too. Along that way this year that I hate to mention or bring up, I have a younger brother, Bob O'Donnell, who passed away here 2 months ago. During this period of 1 year, I've lost not only my oldest brother, my brother just older than me, and they're to be missed. But we were all pioneers, and proud of it. It just kind of, if I don't get to come up here and see a gang, I just cringle when that Channel 4 news comes on, you know. Last year I done it several Friday nights, but this year they have a good program, and I still have faith, and I'm proud to be a pioneer. And I would, in closing, I would like to kind of introduce some of my family here. Nancy, Charles's wife, if you'd stand up, please. Debbie's, Charles's daughter. Charles's grandson, Jonathan. Okay, and I'll tell you a little thing about O'Donnell's. There were so many of us, we were like being rabbits, but I'd like for Jim and Karen behind here, Charles's niece, Karen O'Donnell and her husband, Mickey O'Donnell, and his wife, Alicia, and Taylor, and the oldest girl, mine slipped, I had one little, huh? Randy is not here. Where's she at today? Oh, yeah, and we're proud of that, and I know Charles was very proud of her. She is on scholarship here at OSU. She's going to be playing softball this spring. She's got a minor injury, so she can't play in the fall. Like to introduce my brother, Tim. Stand up, Tim, everybody else. My grandson, Jake O'Donnell, Tim's son, who is a coach at Hennessy right now, Kobe O'Donnell. Have I pretty well hit the clan? Ken, do you think I did? I hope that's all of them. If there's not, we can bring in another troop of them. But I want to say this is something that makes our family happy, and we were all very, very fond. We're a tight-knitted family, and something like this means a lot to us. And I think that's about all I can say. I probably said too much.
Who do you want his wife to come up?
I'm going to take that, and she didn't want to. She wanted me to receive it, so I'll give it to her. Okay. Thank you.
It's going to be a huge family picture, isn't it? Our second inductee is William Kinnick, class of 1955, and the presenter for William is Don Gardner.
If you thought the O'Donnell family was big, wait till I get through with this. But first, let me say that my remarks have been censored by Bill's daughter, Terry. When you know someone as long as Bill and I knew one another and did all the things that we've done in our lives, we just don't have time to go into all of that. But I would like to thank the SPAM committee for having chosen Bill as an inductee, and to the Kinnick family for allowing me to do this. It's very difficult when you been as close as Bill and I were, and you can read in the program all of the things that involved with Bill from the time that he was born back in 1937, and the oldest of 7 children, and all of them lived out east of town on the Kinnick property. And if you go out now and look at the Kinnick property and see how it's been developed over the years, is quite an achievement and quite a tribute to the Kinnick family. Most everyone that were family members always called him William. Those of us that knew him in a different vein, we always called him Bill. So when I make my remarks today, it will be to Bill Kinnick and not William. He and I knew one another since the 3rd grade, and he graduated in the class of 55. I graduated in the class of 54. Bill played football, and at the start of his high school, he thought that he wanted to be a wrestler. And so he went out for wrestling, and he wrestled one year, and he told everyone that there was 2 reasons why he didn't continue his wrestling career. And it happened to be Jim and Phil Kenyon. So that's why he continued with the football and dropped wrestling, because in his weight class he had one or the other that he had to beat to wrestle, and that just wasn't going to happen. But we all know how the Kinnick boys did in their careers in wrestling, and went on to be very, very famous in college and so forth. But Bill played for Coach Ralph Tate, and then later for Nate Watson. But he joined the Navy, and his brother Tom will tell you why he joined the Navy, but I'm not going to get into that. But anyhow, he went in the Navy, and he spent his years in the Navy. And one of the things that I recall most was at one point in time in the Navy, he was in Japan, and he happened to run into my twin brother Ron and Buck Buchanan and Tommy Cleveland, and just a whole group of Stillwater boys were over in Japan. And as you know, with Stillwater boys, they would go to the library every night and read and study and so forth, and and make a good impression for Stillwater, Oklahoma. And while they were there, Bill escaped without any tattoos. My brother has Stillwater, Oklahoma written across his chest, but they had a good time, and he came back out of the Navy, and he and Janet Hemphill married and had 2 children, had Dub and Terry, and they will tell you a little bit about their dad if you want to know some of the intimate details, you know. But Bill and I stayed in contact with one another all our careers. We both happened to be in the electrical business, and Bill worked all over the United States, and I was mostly in Florida and Alabama, but we always stayed in contact, and we ran into one another any number of times at different meetings and so forth, and always had a good time when we did that. After he retired from General Electric Company, he had already moved back to Oklahoma because his mom was real ill, and he was living in California, and he wanted to be back closer to his mom, and so he moved back here and took a job with General Electric Company in Tulsa, and then that where he retired. After retirement, he did some work for a company called Hemphill Corporation out of Tulsa, and also helped Brother Tom with some of the development of the Kinnick properties out east of town. He and I spent a lot of time traveling together, going and visiting our friends from high school and family and so forth, and always enjoyed the trips we made. As a matter of fact, 2 weeks before his untimely death, he and I had spent 3 weeks out west doing all kinds of things, and I wouldn't and I wouldn't take anything for that time that we got to spend together. But anyhow, I was big in the horse business, and Bill loved horses, and we ran race horses all over everywhere, and played golf, and neither one of us were very good, but to hear us tell it, we were two of the world's best, you know. But we just and if there was a casino along the way, good chance we were going to stop, you know, and see what kind of luck we were having that day. But it has just been an unbelievable thing for me after my brother's death almost 2 years ago. The Kinnick family has become my family because it was just my brother and I, and when you see them all today, you'll know that I'm very blessed to have a big family. But Bill always said that he sold enough light fixtures in his electrical career to light up the world. And I will tell you now that he also made all of our lives a lot brighter. And I'd like for his son Dub and his daughter Terry to come up and accept the award.
I don't know, I think it was a tie. Thank y'all. The third inductee is Bruce Campbell, the class of 1956, and the presenter for Bruce is Barney Esparza, the class of 1956.
You'll have to excuse me, I may get a little emotional when I talk about Bruce Campbell. But first of all, I'm going to have to give you a little history about Stillwater, Oklahoma. Growing up here in the 40s and 50s, there were 4 grade schools. There was Jefferson, Eugene Fields, and Lincoln, and St. Francis. Being Catholic, my parents sent us to St. Francis Catholic School. A lot of you probably don't realize back in those days, Catholics didn't eat meat on Friday. We had to eat fish. So we were basically the only Hispanic family here in Stillwater, but I got ribbed more for being a mackerel snacker because I ate fish on Fridays. Well, during grade school, we had competition amongst the other grade schools here in town. We were the St. Francis Crusaders. But back in those days, I was pretty much equal in size to the rest of the guys till we got up into high school. Well, I went to St. Francis from the kindergarten to the 8th grade. So my first introduction to the public schools was Stillwater High School. Well, went out for football. So the first day of practice, we went out there. Coach Grover Johnson was our coach because we were on the junior varsity team. And so after practice, got through taking a shower, and I didn't know Bruce from Adam. He came up to me and he says, introduced himself, and he says, "My name is Bruce Campbell." And he says, for a mackerel snacker, you're a pretty tough kid. And I said, well, thank you. And he said, well, we're going down here to the dairy. High school that time was over there on Duck and 9th Street, and they had the Stillwater Creamery was down there on 9th and Husband. So after football practice, we usually go down and get ice cream or some milk. So we went down. Back in those days, you got your milk in glass bottles. So we sat there on the curb. We both got chocolate milk. Well, that was the first time I met Bruce Campbell. He came up, of all the other guys, he was the only one that welcomed me to Stillwater High School. So we became real close friends. So after football season was over, Coach Johnson says, I'm going to need somebody to go out for wrestling, and I don't have enough to fulfill the team. And Bruce says, well, Barney and I will go up there and wrestle for you. So he sort of volunteered me to be a wrestler. And so, I don't know, I noticed there's quite a few wrestlers that are being inducted here. And if you know wrestling back in those days, we didn't get to eat very much. What really made it bad was during the holidays. But anyway, we got to that first year of wrestling. We used to, up there on 9th Street in Duck, we had to get uniforms in. We didn't have a place to wrestle. We used an old shed. It's called Strickland Park now. And we had this shed that was just big enough to put 2 mats, and it had a wooden stove in it to warm up the place. But you really didn't need that because Coach Johnson usually worked us out pretty hard. And if you were the last one, you had to suit up. And if you were the last one to get there, I think Bill German remember this. He's here. We had this hamburger grill. So anyway, at the end of wrestling season, there used to be this little bakery across from the post office, and Bruce and I would always get us a banana cream pie and pig out at the end of wrestling season. So sophomore year came up, and that was probably one of our most mischievous years. That we had this class called handicraft. And this is, I think they should, I don't know if they still have this class today, but anyway, it's where you learn about the outdoors. You learn how to fish, make flies, and we had bow and arrows, and we also, the liberals today would really roll over in their graves because we learned how to shoot rifles. We had 22 rifles, and we'd go down to the armory. Well, shooting a rifle wasn't very challenging to Bruce. And again, he says, Barney, why don't we get us a pistol? He said, that's a little more difficult. So I said, okay. Well, in this class, we had leather work, so Bruce and I made us Western-style holsters for our pistols. And we'd go down to the armory, and we would practice. I don't know if any of you heard of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Bruce and I could put them to shame. So anyway, that's where Bruce first got involved in his love for shooting pistols. I did that for a little while I was in the military, but Bruce continued. Well, that year in wrestling, we got a new wrestling coach, Coach Raines, and we moved to a wrestling room up in the high school building. And so Bruce and I used to, after wrestling every day, we used to, this hill south of Stillwater, we'd run out there. It's a 5-mile round trip every evening. So that's when he started getting involved in running. And when he was in the military, he still ran in a lot of marathons. But I got a little wiser and I gave that stuff up. But I can always say about Bruce, he was a damn good friend. I had to think hard because I think about Bruce. Our senior year in Stillwater, there wasn't much to do around town. We'd cruise up and down Main Street, and one Saturday night, these young ladies threw water balloons at us. Well, we weren't going to let them get away with that. So he says, so we went over to Bruce's house, got us some water balloons, but we mixed water and flour. So we were going to get them back. So we got down to cruising up Main Street, and we found these lady friends that threw those water balloons at us. And so we pulled up beside them, and they just looked at the door and just smiled. And Bruce says, are they crazy? They know we're going to throw these balloons at them. Well, they knew something Bruce and I didn't, because right behind us was a police car. And so, boom, we threw these balloons, and here the light came on. Now, our senior year, we were upperclassmen, and there was Tommy Chesbro and his brother Jack and Mark McCracken. They always hung out with us. There's a few other things that Bruce and I and the boys did, but I'm not going to tell you that today. But anyway, we had to go down to the jail and got a mop bucket. Chief Bennett made us mop these cells. So after we got through mopping the cells, now that Tommy and Jack and Mark, they had to just sit out there and watch Bruce and I do the mopping. So Chief Bennett sit us down, and he says, now, Bruce and Barney, you're older than these young men, and you're setting a very bad example for them. He says, now you should set a better example for these young guys if they're going to hang out with you. Well, I don't know if you know about Tommy Chesbro. He became coach at Oklahoma State. I don't know what Jack did. Mark, he was a NCAA champion. He was also retired military. Bruce was retired military. And I was retired military. So if Chief Bennett was here today, I would tell him, I says, Chief, I think we set a pretty good example for these young gentlemen. But the only bad advice Bruce gave me, and it's his fault, is we couldn't field a complete golf team. The only time they got a full golf team was when they went out of town to play. John Schillings was our heavyweight, and he came up and says, hey, you guys, you ought to go golf with us because we get a free meal. And Bruce said, nah, says, we don't, now, he always spoke for me. He said, nah, we don't want to play cow pasture pool. Well, on that team was, I don't know if you know, Junior Harris Labron. He was on that golf team, and later on he became a PGA champion. So I can always hold this as Bruce's fault because it took me 32 years before I was able to beat my older brother in golf. And so if Bruce, that would all up to him. But if Bruce was here today, I could tell you what we would do when we got through here. We would go down and get us a banana cream pie and sit there and pig out. Now, Jeannie, his wife, is here today, and one of his daughters and his grandkids. So this mackerel snacker was honored to have Bruce Campbell for my best friend. I used to think Oklahoma was the center of the universe. I remember one time Joe Chink started shooting at his ass when we were in Korea. And I thought of my mom and dad, and I thought, where in the hell is Bruce? So I was very honored to be asked to present Bruce Campbell this memorial. He was a super graduate of Stillwater High School, and I'm damn proud to be his classmate. Thank you.
This is Bruce's grandson that's coming up. You ready? Our fourth inductee is Bill Brown, class of 1957, and the presenter for Bill is Bob McCracken. I noticed he got left out of the last discussion. Just his brother apparently was the only one that was bad.
Try to keep a low profile, especially surrounded by Kennecks and O'Donnells here. First of all, I want to thank the members of SPAM and the managers and the supporters of SPAM. It is a great thing that you all do. We know and appreciate the time, energy, effort that you put into doing this thing every year. And I especially want to say something about Coach Harris. The fact that we can come in here and do this really does emphasize what athletics is really all about, and that's the personalities and the character of the people that we honor. You know, when Ruth asked me to do this, I was at the same time surprised and flattered by her asking me to do this. And surprised because I hadn't been around Stillwater for over 35 years, and I had made no contact with Bill Brown for over 35 years. And flattered because it's really an honor to say something nice about a guy like Bill. After I hung up the telephone, I had a flood of memories about Stillwater High School wrestling with Grover Raines. I guess Grover's not here. He's probably incapacitated, but Grover's not here right now. But it was a lot of memories, including the upgraded that Barney alluded to of the wrestling room. And I found the new wrestling room to be what we might say is dank and dark and dirty and grimy and smelly. But it was in the basement of the high school up there. And some of the things that went through my mind were the mats that we had in the place, which seemed to be, there were canvas mats that had a membrane kind of thing on top of these things that was made from rubber and maybe linoleum. I don't know what these things, but they were certainly designed to give people mat burns. And Barney, you remember, everybody had sore elbows, sore knees. Everybody had a little scar right here, a little scab right here on the upper cheekbone where somebody ran your head into the mat. So everybody enjoyed all of those kind of things in that modernized wrestling room we had. We had a weight room. Well, it really wasn't a weight room. It was a pile of free weights sitting over in the corner of the wrestling room that nobody was allowed to use because lifting weights got you muscled up, and it interfered with the real philosophy of wrestling in those days, which was quickness and motion and skill and cunning to take down your opponents. In this day, we had a thing called power wrestling where you grab a guy and move him around a lot. Whole different philosophy of the way we did things. So we didn't do those weights, but the real weight room was in a hallway on the way down to the coach's office. And it had this old-fashioned scale in the place where, you know, the ones where you get up on this platform and you move these weights around. Well, Bill Brown was a master of the use of that scale. And the reason was pretty simple. He came to work out after a wrestling match about 20 pounds overweight every time he showed up. Where's Barney? Right, Barney? Well, that wasn't necessarily lost on Coach Grover Raines, And he used this as an opportunity to, what you might call, give us a motivational speech on things like overeating and taking care of your body and discipline. But his favorite word, I think was dissipation. Dissipation. Right, Barney? Remember dissipation? No dissipation. The evil thing was dissipation. Well, of course, there was a whole lot of dissipating going on after every one of those wrestling matches, at least as far as the food was concerned. But anyway, I remember one particular incident when Bill was using the scale regularly and frequently. About every 5 minutes, he'd get on that scale, see if he'd lost any weight. And one of our teammates started ragging him unmercifully about using those scales all the time. Well, Bill got a little bit tired of it, and there was an altercation. And at the end of the altercation, one of them left the wrestling room with a black eye, and it wasn't Bill Brown. You know, I got to know Bill in the alley down on South Main, behind the Brown Tire Shop. Bill was over there working in the Brown Tire Shop. My mother was the manager of the Montgomery Ward catalog store right next door to it. And my mother gave me some duties down there from time to time that were commensurate with my abilities. So that would be sweeping the place out and be crickets in the front door and all the many things that we enjoyed around Stillwater in those days. But once in a while she would upgrade me to the mechanic, and I could go out to behind the building there and put together a bicycle or a wheelbarrow or a lawnmower or something for her to display out in the front of her store. And Bill would be back here in the back of the tire shop doing real hard stuff, like changing tires, fixing flats. And tires lasted, about 10,000 miles there, so they had quite a business going for themselves. Bill would be back there working, but conversations always got around between the two of us, so it had something to do with wrestling. Well, that only indicated really that Bill had an early, 15 years old, love of the sport of wrestling, and it stayed with him for his entire life. And in fact, when I came back from another career in the military, I came back to Oklahoma, Bill got in touch with me. And how he did it, I have no idea, but he got in touch with me with the idea of improving the attendance at the wrestling matches at Oklahoma State. He and Joe C., the new wrestling coach, had a dog and pony show they took around the state of Oklahoma. Bill had the contacts, and Joe had the gift of gab to gather up some money and some support. So anyway, this was the genesis of the White Jacket Club, now known as the Cowboy Wrestling Club. Now, I'm not going to go into any more about Bill's contributions to the wrestling world. It's in the brochure that you got in front of you. Take your time and take a look at it. But I think you'll agree that Bill Brown was not a bystander when it came to wrestling. Bill did stuff, and the stuff that he did was long-lasting, and it was certainly important to the sport of wrestling. Anybody that thinks Bill was just a fan or a supporter of wrestling is grossly misstating what he actually did for the sport. On a personal note, I found Bill to be a man of principle. He was certainly a straight talker, a straight thinker, and a straight doer of the deeds, particularly when it came to the sport of wrestling and his family. In my view, Bill personified the values that we cherish, and many of us think are being lost in later on generations, but Bill personified those. His daughter, or his sister-in-law Nelda, told me that she thought that Bill could best be described as a guy who was loyal to a fault. She said that Bill, if he found out that one of his friends needed something, he would stop whatever it was he was doing and go to the rescue. So that's Bill Brown. Bill had a very strong work ethic. He valued work intrinsically. He worked hard all his life. And I think he actually loved the work that he did. I'm proud to say that I knew Bill Brown, and I want to thank Ruth for letting me have a chance to say so. Come on up. He's slow on the trigger, isn't he?
Thank you. Our next inductee is Betty Ann Collier Bolton, class of 1959, and the presenter for Betty is Fred Helser.
Good morning. I have had the opportunity to know Betty as her son-in-law for over 23 years, and I am honored to be here today on her behalf. Her family and I would like to share with you a summary of a few events and stories about Betty from her short time with us. Betty Ann Collier Bolton was born in Stillwater, Oklahoma on January 10, 1941, the sixth of 7 children of J.B. Collier and Gertie Mae Wise Collier. Betty passed away on July 11, 2014 at her home in Bella Vista, Arkansas. Betty excelled at about everything she set her mind to. Her freshman year at Stillwater High, Betty was the freshman class vice president, a Tri-Chi pledge, and a member of the student council. Her sophomore year, Betty was a member of the student council, pep club, guild, Tri-Chi, Order of Rainbow for Girls, and mixed chorus. Her junior year, she was a member of student council, pep club, guild, Tri-Chi, Order of Rainbow for Girls, was honored as junior girl with best personality, and became a varsity cheerleader. Her senior year, she was a member of student council, pep club, Order of Rainbow for Girls, elected president of Tri-Chi, and honored as an S Club queen attendant and the best all-around senior girl, and again selected as a varsity cheerleader. As Betty progressed through her freshman to senior year, people began to notice things about her. They saw kindness and her friendliness to other people. They also saw her competitiveness, but not against another person, but rather her desire to improve herself. At each class, she developed more friends. These traits continued throughout her life. One strong trait that she had was her belief in herself. She always remembered that her dad had told her she was a Collier and she could do anything she set her mind to. She not only believed that, but practiced that throughout her life. One of the accomplishments that she was most proud of was becoming an SHS cheerleader. Her athletic ability really stood out during her 2 years as a varsity cheerleader. No one could outjump her or match her competitive spirit while cheering for the SHS Pioneers. During her sophomore year, one of her best friends, Sandy Smith, along with Sandy's boyfriend, Benny Bunch, set up a blind date for her with a guy in the junior class named Chris Bolton. They met at the high school field South Stadium during a Toy Pioneer football game. That became the beginning of a relationship that lasted over 58 years, with their 56th wedding anniversary to be this December. In December 1958, Betty and Chris were married. This began a new chapter in their lives. Chris attended OSU where he obtained his MS in civil engineering. Before long, they became a family with the birth of their son, Wayne Lee Bolton, and daughter, Donnie Beth Bolton. During this period, Betty attended a few classes at OSU. She and Chris had often discussed her continuing her education after he graduated. In 1964, Betty and the family moved to Wichita, Kansas. She continued to have the desire to improve herself and enrolled at Wichita State University for additional education. In the late 1960s, Betty completed her real estate school and got a real estate broker's license. She worked in real estate until the late 1980s. That is, unless it interfered with her new sport, golf. Betty started playing golf at Rolling Hills Country Club and acquired a new group of friends there. Again, Betty's athletic ability stood out. At one point, she was able to hold a 9 to 10 handicap, which is not bad for starting golf in her 30s. During this period, she, along with about 20 ladies, would represent Rolling Hills in golf tournaments against other clubs, playing state tournaments, and so on. In the 1975 to 85 era, these gals started a group called the Traveling Tees. Now, the Traveling Tees were just what the name infers. They played golf all over the state of Kansas and in Missouri, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Colorado. Although they were serious about golf, this was really a group of ladies having fun, and more fun. This was a great period in Betty's life. Betty enjoyed traveling, although Chris and Betty were terrible about planning a trip. Most of the time, it was a spur-of-the-moment decision. They would get up, she would say, let's go do something, let's go to a casino, which is something they did frequently. One memorable trip was in the 1970s when they went to Las Vegas with two other couples from Wichita. On the return trip home, they were at the airport waiting for their flight. About 5 minutes before boarding, Betty found a quarter slot machine. She heard the first boarding call, continued to play. Second boarding call, still playing. Then she hits a $400 jackpot. And that was back when they paid with real money. Well, quarters start pouring out all over the place. A nearby cleaning lady doubled up 2 trash sacks to make a bag. Then Betty dumped all the quarters in that bag. So the next thing you know, here comes Betty running down the ramp carrying this huge trash bag full of quarters, getting there just before they closed the door of the airplane. The best trip, the most enjoyable trip, and her happiest trip was in 2007 when she and her grandchildren, Shelby and Connor, along with Fred, with me, Donnie, and Chris, went to Disney World in Florida. Those of us that had the opportunity to have been around Betty all these years will remember her for her competitive spirit, her kindness to others, her strong will and personality, but especially her love for her family. Family wants to take this opportunity, to thank the Stillwater Pioneer Athlete Memorial for this induction ceremony and honoring Betty to be a member of the family. At this time, Chris, do you come up?
I'd just like to thank SPAM for this honor that they've bestowed upon Betty to be part of Coach Harris's team. And my family that's here, Fred, my son-in-law here, that did a very tough job today for us. My daughter, Donnie Beth, in the audience there. Our grandson, Connor Blake. Our granddaughter, Shelby, couldn't make it today because she's in all-state competition for first soprano in the state of Arkansas today. She won that and was all-state and had her sophomore year. And then there are Shirley, her sister, Callahan, and I believe they've gone, and Erin Callahan, her daughter. Okay. My sister, Pat Bolton Jackson, and brother-in-law, Donald Jackson. Appreciate you being here. And I also want to say to all the Betty's friends that are here, thank you. We really appreciate this.
Thank you. You bet. Thank you all. Wow. It's cool, isn't it? As a reminder of the things that we do, we are very proud, we've mentioned it before, of the scholarships that we offer. On some of the tables around the room, you'll find some envelopes. If you would like to help us today or in the future, we would appreciate it. And I think you saw some of the kids that would appreciate it. Yeah, they're tax deductible, all that kind of stuff that I'm supposed to say. You know what that means. But we would really appreciate it if you would tell your friends and classmates about us and urge them to let us know of someone that they would like to see inducted. We're always looking for good inductees. You can also find us on our website, which is www.stillwaterpioneermemorial.org. I know all of you have written that down and are going to remember it. If you put Stillwater Athletic Memorial, it'll pop up. It'll be the first thing there. I'd like to thank every one of you for coming, and please come back. Thank you very much. Reminder for the families, please stay so we can get some pictures.
Right up here, we'll get down real quickly.
Okay. Thank you all very much for coming.